The day had been long, stretching into an evening filled with the mundane tasks of life. I stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner while the faint sound of my husband's voice drifted from the living room, where he was engrossed in a game show. The clatter of knives against the cutting board was a rhythm I had grown accustomed to, one that seemed to echo the monotony of my days. I had scheduled a massage for myself, a small indulgence in the midst of my hectic routine. It was a rare treat, something that promised to melt away the stress and tension that had built up over months of feeling overlooked. But just as I was about to leave, my phone buzzed with an alert that sent a wave of disappointment crashing over me. The appointment was cancelled. My shoulders slumped as I read the message again, hoping for a different outcome. "Emily? You okay?" My husband called from the other room, his voice laced with casual concern. "Yeah, just got some bad news about my appointment," I replied, forcing a smile that he couldn't see. As I looked out the window at our small town in Oregon, vibrant with lavender blooms preparing for the upcoming festival and bustling with locals enjoying craft beers at the nearby brewery, I felt a pang of envy for those who could escape their routines so easily. The thought of missing out on this moment of relaxation weighed heavily on me. Just then, my stepson Jake walked through the door. He was home from college for the summer and had settled into our household with an ease that felt both comforting and strange. His presence reminded me of simpler times when life seemed more vibrant and full of possibility. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, noticing my furrowed brow. "My massage got cancelled," I confessed, feeling slightly embarrassed to share such trivial news. He paused for a moment before suggesting something unexpected. "I could give you a massage instead? I mean, if you're comfortable with that." I hesitated. The idea felt odd yet strangely appealing. Jake had taken courses in massage therapy as part of his wellness studies. He often spoke about how it helped him connect with people on another level. Still, there was an unspoken boundary between us, one that seemed to shimmer like heat waves in summer air. "Are you sure?" I asked cautiously. "Yeah. It'll be fun," he said with a grin that reminded me so much of his father when he was younger. After weighing my options, an empty evening alone or this unexpected offer, I finally nodded. "All right then." We set up in our living room. Soft lighting cast gentle shadows across familiar walls adorned with family photos and memories captured in time. As Jake prepared everything, I felt an electric tension build in the air around us. A mixture of excitement and trepidation danced just beneath the surface. "Just let me know if you want me to stop," he said as we settled onto opposite ends of our makeshift massage space, a simple mat laid out on the floor. "I will," I replied softly, yet inside me churned an unsettling mix of anticipation and guilt. As Jake began working on my shoulders, his hands were surprisingly adept. The warmth from his touch seeped into my skin like sunlight breaking through clouds after rain. With every stroke, knots formed from years of unfulfilled expectations began to unravel slowly beneath his fingers. "This feels nice," I murmured absent-mindedly as waves of relaxation washed over me. "Glad to hear it," Jake replied lightly but didn't say much more after that. Instead, we fell into silence punctuated only by soft breaths and muted sounds from outside, a distant lawnmower humming along its task while crickets began their evening serenade. But soon enough, like clouds rolling back in, I found myself grappling with emotions swirling inside me like autumn leaves caught in a gusty wind. This wasn't just about physical comfort, it felt deeper than that, an emotional connection forming through each movement. Then came an unexpected twist. Memories flooded back, of laughter shared during family outings at local festivals or quiet moments spent watching movies together on rainy afternoons. These memories entwined themselves around us like vines creeping up trellises, a reminder of how easily bonds can shift and change shape over time. Suddenly, Jake paused mid-motion. His hands lingered on my back as if he sensed my internal struggle. "You okay?" His question hung heavily between us like fog settling over early morning fields, thick and obscuring clarity. Before I could respond or even process what was happening within me, the sound of my husband's phone ringing shattered our fragile moment like glass breaking upon impact. The sharp trill echoed through our home, a reminder that reality lurked just outside this intimate bubble we had created together. "I should get that," I said quickly as panic surged through me like ice water splashing against bare skin. Jake withdrew immediately. His hands fell away from me as if they'd been burned by fire rather than merely pulling back from skin contact. The charged atmosphere dispersed instantly into awkwardness as we both sat up straight, two people suddenly aware again of familial ties binding us together yet now feeling more estranged than before. I reached for my phone reluctantly, anxiety coiled tightly within my chest while thoughts raced ahead. What would happen next? Would this moment linger in memory or fade away into nothingness? As I answered the call, the familiar voice on the other end brought forth another layer to this unfolding story, one filled with uncertainty about what lay ahead for us all amidst shifting dynamics within our lives. As I hung up the phone, my heart raced with a mix of confusion and guilt. My husband's voice had been steady, filled with the mundane details of his day. Yet, as I listened, all I could think about was the tension that hung in the air between my stepson and me. The massage had started as a simple act of self-care, but it had morphed into something far more complicated. "Are you okay?" My stepson's voice broke through my thoughts, drawing my gaze back to him. He was sitting on the edge of the couch, his hands resting on his knees. The intimacy of the moment felt electric. "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, trying to brush off the unease that lingered in my chest. "Just a little distracted." He nodded slowly, his blue eyes searching mine for something unspoken. The room was quiet now, save for the faint sound of birds chirping outside. I could feel the weight of our shared silence pressing down on us. "Maybe we should continue," he suggested tentatively, shifting his posture slightly. "I mean, if you're comfortable." Comfortable? The word echoed in my mind like a question mark. Did I want to continue? Part of me craved the soothing touch that had begun to melt away my stress. But another part, a larger part, felt an overwhelming wave of guilt wash over me. I took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," I said softly. As he resumed his position behind me, I closed my eyes and tried to focus on the sensations rather than the complexity of our situation. His hands were gentle yet firm as they began to work through the knots in my shoulders. Each stroke felt like an invitation to relax deeper into myself. "Tell me about your day," he said quietly, breaking through the tension again. I hesitated before sharing snippets about work and errands, mundane details meant to fill the silence but also serve as a distraction from what loomed between us. He listened intently, nodding along as I spoke about organizing events at the local craft brewery and preparing for the upcoming Lavender Festival. "You always seem so busy," he remarked after a moment. "Do you ever take time for yourself?" His question hit home harder than expected. "Not really," I admitted, feeling vulnerable under his gaze even without looking back at him. "Maybe you should," he suggested lightly but with an earnestness that made me pause. The conversation flowed easily as we exchanged stories about family gatherings and childhood memories, moments that felt safe yet intimate at once. With each shared laugh and each memory recounted, I felt walls crumbling within me. Then came a moment when our laughter faded into silence again, a silence thick with unspoken words and emotions swirling around us like summer heat rising off asphalt. And then it happened, we kissed. The connection sparked between us was electric, a collision of emotions that sent shivers down my spine. It was unexpected yet somehow inevitable, two lonely souls reaching out in desperation for connection amidst their own struggles. But just as quickly as it had begun, it ended abruptly at the sound of my phone ringing again, the same familiar tone cutting through our fragile moment like glass shattering against tile floors. My heart sank as I pulled away instinctively, reaching for my phone once more with shaky hands while trying to ignore how alive everything suddenly felt between us moments ago. "Sorry," I murmured apologetically as I answered without looking at who was calling this time around. It didn't matter, nothing mattered outside this room anymore except what we had just shared. But when I heard my husband's voice again on the other end, filled with concern, I knew everything had changed irrevocably once more. "Emily? Is everything all right? You sound different." I swallowed hard against a lump forming in my throat while glancing sideways at my stepson who sat frozen in place. His expression caught somewhere between surprise and concern mirrored mine perfectly now too. "I'm fine," I repeated more firmly this time even though uncertainty gnawed away inside me like an insatiable beast craving attention. There were so many things left unsaid hanging in midair between us, the kiss still lingering on our lips like unfulfilled promises or dreams never realized fully coming true against all odds despite everything else going wrong around us outside these walls. "I'll be home soon," he continued after sensing something amiss in my tone perhaps but not probing further thankfully, for now anyway since all I wanted was time alone together without interruptions from anyone else ever again if only just for tonight. After hanging up finally feeling drained emotionally yet exhilarated by what transpired moments ago, it became clear this wasn't just another fleeting encounter or passing phase. It meant far more than either one of us dared admit right now even though reality loomed heavy overhead waiting patiently ready to crash down upon us both sooner rather than later inevitably. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly breaking through thoughts swirling chaotically within me once more while glancing over cautiously still unsure how best navigate this newfound territory together without losing ourselves completely amidst chaos surrounding everything else happening outside these walls. "I don't know," came out softer than intended reflecting uncertainty lingering heavily still yet somehow oddly comforting too given circumstances surrounding both our lives right now intertwined so intricately together perhaps destined to meet here today against all odds. The evening stretched before us like an open road ahead filled with possibilities, but also fraught danger lurking just beneath surface waiting strike whenever least expected catching unaware leaving nothing but wreckage behind if not careful moving forward from here onward. The cafe buzzed with the familiar sounds of clinking cups and quiet chatter, a backdrop to my swirling thoughts. I took a seat at a small table near the window, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around me like a warm blanket. The Lavender Festival was just around the corner, and I could already sense the excitement in town as people prepared for the annual celebration. Yet, instead of feeling anticipation, I felt a heaviness settling in my chest. I stirred my coffee absent-mindedly, recalling the recent massage session with my stepson. The way his hands had moved over my skin lingered in my mind, both soothing and unsettling. Our lips met in that moment of vulnerability, igniting something deep within me that I had long thought extinguished. It was as if he had awakened a part of me that had been dormant for years. As I sipped my drink, memories of my marriage flooded back, moments once filled with passion now overshadowed by routine and neglect. My husband's absence weighed heavily on me. He was often lost in his work, leaving little room for tenderness or connection. I felt like I was living in two worlds, one where duty reigned supreme and another where desire flickered like a candle flame, fragile yet alluring. A couple entered the cafe, laughing together like old friends. Their easy camaraderie reminded me of better days with my husband before life's responsibilities took over. I forced a smile as they passed by but couldn't shake off the pang of longing that settled deep within me. Would we ever find our way back to that kind of joy? Suddenly, I spotted Jake walking toward me from across the room. My heart raced at his unexpected presence. He looked just as handsome as he did during our last encounter. He approached with a hesitant smile that made my stomach flutter and my mind race with conflicting emotions. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice low enough to keep our conversation private. "Of course," I replied, trying to maintain an air of casualness despite the tension crackling between us. He sat down across from me, his gaze searching mine for something unspoken. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said softly. "Just needed some time to think," I admitted, feeling exposed under his scrutiny. "About us?" His question hung in the air like a weighty secret. I hesitated before nodding slowly. "It's complicated." "I know," he replied earnestly. "But what happened during the massage? It felt different." My breath caught in my throat at his words. The memory surged back, how vulnerable we had both been in that moment of shared intimacy. "It shouldn't have happened," I whispered, though part of me yearned for more than just regret. "I don't want to lose what we have," Jake said quietly, leaning forward slightly as if drawing me into his orbit once more. The cafe faded away as our conversation deepened into uncharted territory filled with hopes and fears alike. It was easy to forget about everything else when we were together like this, two souls seeking solace amid chaos. Yet reality loomed large outside this bubble we created. Images of family obligations danced at the edges of my consciousness, reminding me how tangled our lives were woven together, too many threads intertwined without clear boundaries or paths forward. As we spoke about mundane things, the Lavender Festival preparations and local gossip, I couldn't shake off how close we'd come to crossing an invisible line between familial affection and something far more dangerous yet intoxicating. When Jake reached across the table to brush a stray hair behind my ear, a gesture so tender it sent shivers down my spine, I felt torn between wanting him near and fearing what that would mean for us both moving forward. "Emily," he began tentatively before stopping himself mid-sentence as if weighing each word carefully before letting it escape into existence between us. "Yes?" My voice barely above a whisper as anticipation hung thickly around us now, a palpable tension electrifying every breath taken in this small cafe filled with oblivious patrons going about their day unaware of our hidden connection unfolding right under their noses. "We can't keep pretending this doesn't exist." His eyes bore into mine, searching for understanding, or perhaps permission, to pursue whatever this was growing between us further despite all odds stacked against us, including familial ties binding us together tightly yet suffocatingly too. Before I could respond or even process his words fully, a sudden commotion erupted from outside, drawing our attention away momentarily. Laughter turned into gasps, followed by hurried footsteps echoing against pavement outside, drawing curious glances from others inside, including ourselves, trying not to lose sight amidst chaos unfolding beyond these walls surrounding us. "What's happening?" I asked, instinctively leaning toward him, seeking reassurance even though deep down fear gripped tightly around heart, threatening break free any moment now. "I don't know," Jake replied, glancing toward window, watching people rush past, seemingly anxious about something unseen lurking just beyond reach, waiting strike whenever least expected, catching unaware, leaving nothing but wreckage behind if not careful moving forward from here onward. The atmosphere shifted abruptly. Uncertainty seeped through cracks forming within fragile facade built upon shared moments, filled laughter, longing, connection, twisted somehow into confusion, spiraling downward, threatening engulf everything whole unless checked soon. "Let's go see," Jake suggested, rising from his seat, determination etched across face suddenly becoming more vibrant than moments before. Maybe this distraction would help clear muddled thoughts swirling uncontrollably inside head, clouding judgment, making decisions harder than ever imagined possible right now. We stepped outside together, merging seamlessly into crowd gathering around, commotion watching intently, waiting for answers, while hearts raced faster than feet moving beneath us, struggling keep pace alongside one another amidst chaos swirling all around, shaking foundations built upon trust, loyalty, love, tested time again throughout years spent side by side, navigating life's winding paths leading nowhere certain anymore. As we stood there side by side watching events unfold before us, an unexpected confrontation breaking out nearby between two familiar faces, stirring up old memories buried deep within me, resurfacing thoughts long forgotten suddenly vivid, once more compelling attention drawn back toward complexities hidden beneath surface. Relationships formed over years spent building, lives intertwined together. In that moment, standing next to him, feeling warmth radiate through skin brushing against mine, igniting spark previously thought extinguished, brought forth realization. Choices made would shape futures ahead, whether wanted them or not, leaving behind traces lingering forevermore, reminding consequences lived out loud, echoing through time, reminding always nothing stays hidden forever. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, casting a gentle glow across the room. I lay there, tangled in the sheets, acutely aware of the warmth beside me. My stepson's presence felt both comforting and alarming, a paradox that left me breathless with uncertainty. The events of the previous night replayed in my mind like a film stuck on repeat, our laughter, our shared stories, and the intimacy that had unfolded unexpectedly. As I shifted slightly, trying to escape the weight of my thoughts, I could hear him breathing peacefully next to me. This was so unlike my life before, it felt surreal. The quiet moments we shared in those hours seemed to defy everything I had built, a life filled with responsibilities and expectations. Yet here we were, two souls seeking solace in each other amidst the chaos. But what did this mean? The nagging voice of guilt crept back in as I recalled my husband's unwavering support over the years. Had I betrayed him? My heart raced at the thought. I had sought comfort in a place I never imagined finding it, my own family. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to disturb him. The house was still as I moved toward the kitchen, where sunlight poured through the window, illuminating every corner. It felt almost too bright for my mood, too cheerful for what lay ahead. A cup of coffee would help clear my head, perhaps it would bring some clarity. As I brewed the coffee, memories of our last family gathering surfaced uninvited, the laughter around the table, my husband's warm smile as he recounted stories from our past. How could I reconcile those moments with what had happened? My hands trembled slightly as I poured steaming liquid into a mug. A soft rustle behind me broke my reverie. He stood there now, leaning against the doorframe with tousled hair and sleepy eyes that sparkled with mischief. Coffee? I offered weakly, trying to keep my voice steady. Sure, he replied casually as he approached me. There was an ease between us that felt both exhilarating and dangerous. We stood side by side at the counter while silence enveloped us like a thick fog. Each moment stretched out painfully as unspoken words hung heavily in the air, the weight of our choices pressing down on us both. Last night, he began tentatively, his voice barely above a whisper. Let's not talk about it, I interrupted quickly, panic rising within me. Not yet. He nodded slowly but didn't retreat from my side. Instead, he leaned closer as if drawn by an invisible thread connecting us, a bond forged in secrecy and vulnerability. I took a deep breath and tried to focus on anything but what had transpired between us. How we spent hours sharing dreams and fears while wrapped up in each other's warmth. How fleeting moments transformed into something deeper than either of us anticipated. Yet beneath that warmth lay an undercurrent of fear about how quickly everything could unravel if we weren't careful. I don't want to hurt anyone, he said softly after a long pause. His gaze held mine steady as if searching for understanding within this tangled web we'd woven ourselves into. I know, I replied quietly but firmly, feeling tears prick at my eyes. Neither do I. We exchanged glances filled with unspoken acknowledgement, of shared desires and consequences looming ahead like dark clouds ready to burst forth at any moment. The coffee machine beeped abruptly, breaking our trance. It startled me back to reality. As I poured another cup for him, my hands shaking slightly, I couldn't shake off that feeling of impending doom settling over us both like an unwanted cloak. What happens now? He asked suddenly after taking a sip from his mug, his face betraying uncertainty despite his usual bravado. I don't know, came my honest reply, tinged with sadness and resignation. We need time to think. Time felt elusive now, each second stretched infinitely before me like an endless road leading nowhere good, a path fraught with difficult choices waiting just around every corner. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway suddenly jolted us both back into reality, the familiar rhythm unmistakable belonging solely to one person, my husband returning home earlier than expected from his morning run. Panic surged through me as adrenaline kicked in. What would he think if he found us here together? Would he sense something amiss? A rush of urgency propelled me forward toward damage control mode. I needed space between us before his arrival shattered everything further beyond repair. Quick! We can't let him see you. My voice was barely above a whisper as fear gripped me tightly around its cold fingers, squeezing out any rational thought left lingering within me. He nodded sharply but hesitated briefly before darting toward the guest room just down the hall, a place where secrets could be hidden away momentarily until clarity emerged again from chaos swirling around us all too quickly now. I took another deep breath, trying desperately to center myself before facing whatever awaited beyond those doors. The man who loved me unconditionally yet remained unaware of this storm brewing just beneath surface appearances painted so perfectly over time spent together building lives intertwined forevermore. With each step forward toward reality came another wave crashing over me, a reminder that choices made would shape futures ahead whether wanted them or not, leaving behind traces lingering forevermore, reminding consequences lived out loud, echoing through time, reminding always nothing stays hidden forever. As my husband entered through the doorway moments later wearing bright enthusiasm radiating warmth, filling up spaces once empty around us, I plastered on a smile, hoping desperately it would mask everything else lurking just beneath surface, waiting patiently for its turn. Good morning. His voice rang out cheerfully, cutting through tension thick enough to slice easily apart, revealing truths hidden within shadows cast long ago. Morning. I replied, attempting normalcy while feeling heart racing wildly beneath facade carefully maintained over years spent together, navigating complexities hidden beneath surface, relationships formed over time spent building lives intertwined forevermore. But even standing there beside him pretending all was well, I couldn't escape feeling weight pressing down heavily upon shoulders, bearing burdens far too great for one person alone to carry anymore. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow on the table where I had shared countless breakfasts with my husband. Today, however, the familiar setting felt foreign. I poured coffee into my favorite mug, its chipped rim a testament to years of use and neglect. The smell of the brewing coffee filled the air, but it did little to soothe the turmoil inside me. Are you okay? My husband's voice broke through my thoughts as he entered the room, concern etched on his face. Just tired, I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. I could see him studying me, searching for signs of the woman he once knew so well. The weight of our unspoken issues hung heavily between us. He nodded and turned his attention to the newspaper spread across the counter. I watched him read, feeling a pang of guilt mixed with frustration. How had we drifted so far apart? The intimacy we once shared felt like a distant memory now. As he flipped through the pages, I thought about last night, about how my stepson had filled in for my canceled massage appointment. The way his hands had moved over my skin lingered in my mind like an echo of something forbidden yet comforting. I shook my head slightly as if trying to dispel those thoughts. Any plans for today? He asked, looking up from his reading. Just some errands, I replied absent-mindedly. Might stop by the craft brewery later. It was a place where I could lose myself among familiar faces and stories shared over pints. Sounds good, he said and returned to his paper. His lack of curiosity about my day stung more than it should have. After finishing breakfast, I grabbed my purse and stepped outside into the crisp Oregon air. The lavender fields were beginning to bloom again, their vibrant colors would soon draw crowds for the festival. I remembered how much joy they brought me in past years, a stark contrast to how trapped I felt now. Driving through town, memories flooded back, laughter shared with friends at the brewery, moments spent wandering through rows of lavender with my husband by my side before life became routine and predictable. A familiar face caught my eye as I parked near the cafe, a friend from high school who had moved away years ago. Emily. Is that you? She called out with genuine surprise as she approached me. Sarah. It's been ages. We embraced tightly, her warmth bringing back a flood of nostalgia. I'm back in town for a bit, she said excitedly. I've missed this place. We settled at an outdoor table under an umbrella that offered shade from the sun's growing intensity. As we caught up on each other's lives, Sarah spoke about her adventures and newfound passions while I struggled to find words beyond surface-level pleasantries. I can't believe you're still living here, she remarked after hearing about my life in Oregon. It's comfortable, I said quietly, avoiding eye contact as guilt washed over me again, guilt for not pursuing more when it was still within reach. As we reminisced about our high school days, the dreams we held then, I felt an ache deep within me for something lost along the way. Sarah's laughter was infectious. It reminded me of who I used to be before marriage and responsibilities dulled that spark. But just as quickly as those feelings surfaced, they were overshadowed by thoughts of last night, the moment when everything changed between me and my stepson during that massage session. My heart raced again at just thinking about it. It felt like walking on thin ice. One wrong move could send everything crashing down around us. Our conversation drifted toward family matters. Sarah mentioned her own struggles with relationships that hadn't turned out as she'd hoped either. You have to do what makes you happy, she urged gently but firmly. I nodded slowly but couldn't shake off how complicated happiness seemed now, especially since it involved navigating feelings towards someone so close yet so wrong in every conceivable way. Suddenly, Sarah's expression shifted as she glanced behind me toward the cafe entrance. Oh no. Is that your husband? I turned around to see him walking toward us with an unreadable expression on his face, a mix of confusion and concern clouding his features upon seeing me seated across from another man's wife without context or explanation. Emily, he said cautiously as he approached our table, I didn't expect to find you here. I was just catching up with Sarah, I replied too quickly, trying to mask any hint of discomfort in my voice while feeling exposed under his gaze. He nodded but didn't seem convinced. There was tension simmering beneath our exchange that neither of us wanted to acknowledge openly in front of Sarah. I'll let you two talk then, she said awkwardly before excusing herself from our table, her presence suddenly feeling like a barrier lifted only to reveal raw emotions festering beneath surface-level interactions between us now laid bare without anyone else around anymore. What's going on? My husband asked bluntly once Sarah walked away entirely out of earshot. Nothing. Just talking, I mumbled while searching for words that wouldn't betray everything swirling inside me right now, everything unresolved between us both lingering like shadows cast over sunlight filtering through leaves overhead. He studied me closely again before speaking up hesitantly, You've seemed distant lately. I opened my mouth but found no response worth giving him. Not when all these complicated feelings tangled together made clarity impossible right now amidst everything else weighing heavily upon both our hearts. Before we could delve deeper into uncomfortable territory or find common ground somewhere amidst this chaos threatening stability at home, the sound of ringing phone interrupted us both, abruptly breaking whatever fragile moment we'd created just moments ago. My heart sank further when glancing down at caller ID displayed on screen. It was my doctor's office calling, an ominous reminder that sometimes life throws curveballs when least expected. I need to take this, I muttered hurriedly before stepping away from him, entirely feeling dread creeping into every corner within, mind racing ahead filled with possibilities none could prepare for regardless what outcome awaited next. As I stepped away from him, the weight of my decision settled heavily on my shoulders. The phone call loomed in my mind, a reminder that life's unpredictability often collided with our carefully constructed facades. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself as I answered the call, my heart racing in anticipation. Hello? I said, forcing calm into my voice. Emily? It's Dr. Thompson. I wanted to discuss your recent test results, the voice on the other end stated, the seriousness of his tone sending a chill through me. Now? I asked, glancing back at my stepson. He stood there, waiting for me with an unreadable expression. My heart pounded as I tried to focus on the conversation. Yes, it's important we talk about this, he continued. Can you come in tomorrow? Of course, I replied automatically, though dread coiled tighter in my stomach. The thought of facing whatever news awaited me felt overwhelming. After hanging up, I returned to the living room where he stood, uncertainty etched on his face. I'm sorry about that, I said softly, avoiding his gaze. It was just a doctor's office. He nodded slowly but didn't say anything. The silence hung heavily between us, filled with unspoken words and emotions that had been bubbling beneath the surface for too long. I think we need to talk, he finally said, his voice low and serious. I felt a rush of anxiety at his words. About what? I asked cautiously. About us, he replied, stepping closer as if to bridge the distance that had grown since our last encounter. My heart raced again, an unsettling mix of fear and longing coursing through me. What do you mean? He hesitated for a moment before speaking again. I can't pretend like nothing happened between us anymore. The air thickened with tension as his words hung in the space between us. Memories of our shared moments flooded back, the laughter, the vulnerability we had shown each other during our massages, and it all felt so fragile now. We can't keep doing this, I whispered, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. It's wrong. But it feels right, he countered softly, stepping closer still until there was hardly any space left between us. I could see desperation in his eyes, a reflection of my own inner turmoil. What about your father? The question slipped from my lips before I could stop it. He doesn't understand me like you do, he admitted quietly. You're different. His words struck me hard, they were both comforting and terrifying at once. In this moment of raw honesty, I realized how deeply entwined our lives had become despite the boundaries we should have maintained. Just then, a loud knock echoed through the house, my husband returning home early from work unexpectedly. Panic surged within me as reality crashed down like a wave against jagged rocks. I need you to leave, I urged him urgently while glancing toward the door where my husband would soon enter. But... no. Just go. My voice rose slightly in desperation as I pushed him toward the back door leading out to our garden where no one would see him leave unnoticed. He hesitated for just a second longer before nodding reluctantly and slipping through the door into Twilight's embrace outside. Once it closed behind him, an overwhelming sense of loss washed over me, a stark contrast against relief mingled with guilt that churned within me like stormy seas. I took a moment to collect myself before opening the front door just as my husband stepped inside carrying an armful of groceries. His face lit up when he saw me standing there but quickly shifted into confusion upon noticing my flushed cheeks and disheveled hair. Hey. You okay? He asked with genuine concern lacing his voice as he set down bags on the kitchen counter nearby. Yeah, just got off an important call. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue but seemed necessary under these circumstances. One more secret piled atop others already threatening to unravel everything around us if exposed too soon or carelessly shared with anyone else who might listen, especially him. He smiled gently before moving closer and wrapping his arms around me tightly for comfort. Warmth radiated from him yet felt strangely hollow compared against memories lingering just beyond reach where shadows danced along edges waiting patiently for acknowledgement they may never receive openly again. As we stood together like that, a momentary reprieve from chaos, I heard laughter echoing outside coming from neighbors gathering for an impromptu barbecue across our street. Their carefree banter reminded me how fragile happiness could be when hidden beneath layers upon layers masking deeper truths left unsaid. Moments later, after releasing each other reluctantly into reality, once more began filling spaces around us again, as if nothing had ever changed. His phone buzzed loudly against countertop, startling both of us back into present-day awareness where time pressed forward relentlessly regardless what lay ahead, waiting patiently beyond horizon yet unseen still. "I'll get it," he said while reaching over, casually picking up device, glancing briefly at screen before furrowing brow, slightly confused by whatever message awaited him there now. "What is it?" "It's from work." His voice held a note of uncertainty that piqued my curiosity even further, but didn't dare pry deeper, knowing full well how complicated things already felt without adding extra layers onto existing turmoil, crowding thoughts swirling endlessly within, mind racing ahead, filled possibilities none could prepare for regardless what outcome awaited next. Suddenly feeling overwhelmed by everything, the weight pressing down harder than ever, I excused myself under pretense needing some fresh air outside, escaping briefly onto back porch, hoping cool breeze would clear head enough allow clarity return once more before facing whatever new challenges awaited ahead. Standing there alone, surrounded by fading daylight casting long shadows across garden path leading away toward distant horizon, reminded me just how far removed life had become since those initial innocent moments shared quietly behind closed doors. Now tangled up, intricately weaving threads connecting past, present, future together, forming tapestry depicting choices made along way, shaping destiny unfolding right before eyes, whether ready or not. As dusk settled around me, enveloping everything within soft embrace, darkness slowly crept forward, inching closer, revealing hidden truths buried deep beneath surface, longing escape, desperately searching light, illuminating paths leading toward unknown destinations yet undiscovered. And then suddenly realization hit hard like thunder, crashing overhead, breaking silence, shattering illusions built over time, leaving only raw vulnerability exposed, bare, open, wide, awaiting acknowledgement, acceptance. Truth remained hidden too long, now demanding attention, requiring reckoning, forcing decisions made, confront consequences looming large ahead, casting shadows across future uncertain yet inevitable nonetheless. The weight of my decisions hung heavily in the air, thick and suffocating. I stood in the kitchen, staring out at the lavender fields swaying gently in the evening breeze. The vibrant hues of purple danced under the fading sunlight, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. I had spent too long avoiding the truth, but now it loomed before me like an unwelcome guest. "Emily," my husband's voice called from the living room, pulling me from my thoughts. He sounded weary, his tone laced with concern. I could hear him shuffling through papers, perhaps trying to distract himself from whatever was gnawing at him. I took a deep breath and walked into the living room, where he sat hunched over our coffee table. "Do you have a moment?" he asked, his eyes meeting mine with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Of course," I replied, settling onto the couch across from him. My heart raced as I prepared for what felt like an inevitable confrontation. "I've been thinking about us," he began, his voice steady but quiet. "Things have been off lately." The tension in his brow told me he was struggling to articulate his feelings. I nodded slowly, knowing this conversation was long overdue. "I know," I said softly. "I've felt it too." He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "I've been so focused on work and everything else that I think I've neglected you. And maybe I've also neglected myself." His honesty pierced through my defenses. For a moment, we simply sat in silence, absorbing each other's words. The truth hung between us like an unspoken promise, a possibility of change if we were willing to face it together. "Do you remember when we used to go to that little brewery on Saturday nights?" he asked suddenly, a hint of nostalgia creeping into his voice. "Of course," I replied with a small smile. "You always ordered that dark ale while I sipped on something fruity." A faint smile broke across his face as he remembered those carefree moments before life became so complicated. "We should do that again," he suggested tentatively. The idea was comforting yet terrifying at once. It felt like stepping back into a past that might never return while grappling with my present reality. Just then, there was a knock at the door, unexpected and jarring against our fragile moment. My heart sank as I exchanged glances with my husband. We both knew who it likely was. Should I get it? He asked hesitantly. Let me, I said quickly, rising from the couch and moving toward the door before he could change his mind. Opening it revealed our neighbor Mary, an ever-curious woman known for her penchant for gossip and community judgment. Her bright smile faltered when she saw my expression. She must have sensed something was amiss. Hi, Emily. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she chirped cheerily but quickly turned serious upon noticing my tense demeanor. Is everything all right? I forced a smile that felt more like a grimace. Just having a chat with Tom. Oh. That's good, she exclaimed too enthusiastically for comfort. You two should really spend more time together. Her eyes darted around as if searching for signs of trouble beneath our facade. Yes, I replied curtly, hoping she would take the hint and leave us be. Mary leaned closer and lowered her voice conspiratorially, as if sharing some grand secret. You know how people talk around here. They notice things. Her gaze flickered toward Tom before returning to me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. What do you mean? My voice came out sharper than intended. Oh dear, she sighed dramatically, placing a hand on her chest as if wounded by my tone. You know how small towns are, everyone knows everyone's business. She hesitated before continuing cautiously, there are whispers about you and Jason. At her mention of Jason, the very name that stirred both longing and guilt within me, I felt heat rush to my cheeks. The walls seemed to close in around us. Mary's words echoed ominously in my mind as reality crashed down upon me. I don't know what you're talking about, I managed to say through clenched teeth while trying not to let panic seep into my voice. Mary waved her hands dismissively but kept her eyes locked onto mine with unnerving intensity. Oh, come now. You can't hide everything forever. She stepped back slightly as if gauging how far she could push me before retreating entirely. My heart raced as dread settled heavily in my stomach. This wasn't just gossip, it was judgment wrapped in concern disguised as friendship. Thank you for your concern, I replied coolly, forcing myself not to react further while wishing fervently for her departure from our doorstep before any more damage could be done. She nodded slowly but lingered just long enough for discomfort to stretch taut between us before finally turning away with an exaggerated sigh of resignation that spoke volumes about her true intentions all along, curiosity masked under false compassion. Once inside again after closing the door behind her firmly enough that it echoed throughout our home like thunder rolling across distant hillsides, I faced Tom, who looked equally unsettled by Mary's visit as well as its implications hanging thickly between us, now unavoidably exposed once more under scrutiny not just from ourselves but also from our community at large, threatening everything we had built together over years spent side by side navigating life's challenges hand in hand despite growing distance separating us lately. I can't believe this is happening, Tom muttered under his breath while running fingers nervously through hair already streaked with silver strands reflecting time passing all too swiftly without notice sometimes until moments like these force one back into reality, harshly reminding them what truly mattered most amid chaos surrounding them daily. I need some air, I blurted out, suddenly feeling suffocated by uncertainty pressing down upon shoulders heavy laden with burdens carried far too long without relief sought or granted until now perhaps. Before he could respond further or ask questions better left unspoken, I slipped outside into twilight where shadows danced playfully around me, illuminating paths leading toward unknown destinations yet undiscovered, beckoning softly, inviting exploration beyond confines imposed upon self, previously keeping hidden truths buried deep beneath surface, longing escape, desperately searching light, illuminating paths leading toward new beginnings, waiting patiently just beyond reach if only willing enough. Venture forth boldly despite fears lingering, still haunting corners, mind refusing let go entirely even when faced head-on. As darkness enveloped everything within soft embrace once again, I stood alone among lavender fields, breathing deeply, inhaling fragrant scents swirling around, filling lungs, invigorating spirit, igniting flickers, hope buried beneath layers, doubt accumulated over years spent trapped within confines, expectations placed upon self-willingly accepting roles defined by others rather than forging own identity anew, breaking free shackles binding tightly, preventing growth, stifling desires, yearning. Fulfillment, finally emerging into full bloom, ready embrace whatever lay ahead regardless consequences, looming large, casting shadows across future, uncertain yet inevitable nonetheless. The lavender fields stretched endlessly before me, a vibrant sea of purple, each blossom whispering promises of renewal. I stood amidst the fragrant rose, inhaling deeply, letting the sweet scent mingle with the fresh air that filled my lungs. Each breath seemed to clear the fog in my mind, a reminder that life could be more than just a series of obligations. Yet, as I looked around, the beauty felt tainted by the weight of my choices. The laughter of festivalgoers echoed in the distance, but it felt like a world away from my reality. I had navigated through so much turmoil, my marriage fraying at the edges, and an unexpected bond with my stepson that had turned everything upside down. The festival was supposed to be a celebration of life and community, but for me, it became a backdrop for reflection and contemplation. What was I doing? How had I let myself drift so far from who I once was? The laughter faded into murmurs as memories flooded back, moments spent with him that were tinged with both warmth and guilt. I caught sight of my husband across the field, his smile genuine yet unaware of the storm brewing within me. He had been supportive through his own struggles but remained oblivious to the emotional distance that had grown between us. My heart tightened at the thought, he deserved better than what I had offered lately. Emily. Come join us. A friend waved from a nearby booth, offering me a chance to escape my thoughts. I forced a smile and walked over, engaging in light conversation about local crafts and seasonal brews. As laughter surrounded me, I caught glimpses of my stepson in the distance. He stood with friends near a vendor selling lavender-infused lemonade, his presence stirring conflicting emotions within me. The connection we shared was unique, a blend of intimacy and confusion that left me questioning everything. Are you okay? My friend's voice cut through my reverie. Just thinking, I replied softly. About what? You seem distant. I hesitated before answering. Life changes quickly, doesn't it? She nodded knowingly but pressed no further. Instead, she pointed toward the stage where local musicians began to play soothing melodies. The sound floated through the air like an invitation to forget my troubles if only for a moment. As I listened to the music, something shifted within me, an urge to confront rather than escape. The festival represented new beginnings. Perhaps it was time for me to face what lay ahead instead of running from it. With determination swelling inside me, I stepped away from my friends and headed toward where my husband stood chatting with familiar faces. As I approached him, our eyes met, a momentary connection that reminded me why we had built our lives together in the first place. Hey there, he greeted warmly. Can we talk? The words slipped out before I could second-guess myself. He nodded instantly, sensing the seriousness in my tone. We moved away from the crowd toward a quieter area under an archway draped in lavender blooms. The scent enveloped us as we stood beneath its shade, both comforting and suffocating at once. What's on your mind? He asked gently. I've been thinking about us, I began cautiously. About how things have changed. His brow furrowed slightly as he absorbed my words. I know things haven't been easy lately. It's more than just that, I continued, feeling urgency rise within me like heat from summer sunbeams cutting through leaves above us. I've been feeling lost. He reached for my hand instinctively, a gesture meant to reassure but also one that made everything feel even heavier between us. We can work through this together, he said softly. But could we? My mind flashed back to moments shared with my stepson, the warmth of his touch during those massages when emotional barriers crumbled like fragile glass under pressure. How could I reconcile those feelings with this conversation? I want us to be honest, I replied finally. each word weighed down by unspoken truths lingering just beyond reach like shadows dancing on walls at twilight when daylight fades too quickly into nightfall, leaving behind uncertainty lingering long after stars appear overhead, illuminating paths leading toward unknown futures ahead, waiting patiently if only willing enough, venture forth boldly despite fears lingering, still haunting corners, mind refusing let go entirely even when faced head-on. Suddenly, movement caught my eye, a figure approaching from behind my husband. It was my stepson, looking conflicted yet determined as he stepped forward into our space, breaking whatever silence hung thickly around us like clouds before summer storms unleash their fury upon unsuspecting earth below. "Mom," he said slowly, as if testing waters before diving deep into turbulent seas swirling around all three of us, now standing precariously close together beneath archway adorned richly with lavender blooms, promising renewal yet threatening chaos simultaneously. My heart raced as his gaze flickered between us both, his expression revealing vulnerability mixed with something else entirely. Was it regret? Longing? Or perhaps fear? "What are you doing here?" My husband's voice held an edge now, the tension palpable as questions hung heavy in air, thickening around us like fog rolling silently across fields, obscuring what lay beyond. "I came because," his voice faltered momentarily before steadying again, his resolve returning stronger than ever as though fueled by fire igniting within depths unseen, urging him forward despite consequences looming large, casting shadows across future uncertain yet inevitable nonetheless. Before he could finish speaking, however, I felt an overwhelming wave crash over everything, a realization dawning upon all three of us standing there amid lavender blooms, intertwined fates forever altered by choices made leading up until this very moment. A sudden gust swept through, causing petals to dance wildly above our heads, swirling around, creating chaos, reflecting inner turmoil brewing beneath surface longing, escape desperately searching light, illuminating paths leading toward new beginnings, waiting patiently just beyond reach if only willing enough, venture forth boldly despite fears lingering, still haunting corners, mind refusing let go entirely even when faced head-on. And then silence fell upon us as if time itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next.